Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome to the channel. So today I'm doing my season preview for the 2019 Ohio State Buckeyes. The season is getting close. We're just 17 days away from Ohio State's home opener against Florida Atlantic. So in this video, we'll take a look at the schedule. I'll give you guys my predictions. We'll talk about Ryan Day. We'll talk about Justin Fields and the quarterback position. We'll also take a quick look at the depth chart. So make sure you watch this video until the end. If you're new to the channel or you're a big Ohio State fan, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button. So this is going to be a fascinating season for the 2019 Ohio State Buckeyes, no matter how it plays out. This is a new look Ohio State team, a lot of new coaches, a lot of new players. The biggest change, Urban Meyer now retired, Ryan Day takes over as new head coach, and Coach Day has some extremely big shoes to fill. Urban, one of the best to ever do it in college football history, coming off an impressive 7-year run at Ohio State where he went 86-9, winning 3 Big Ten championships, 7-0 against his rival Michigan, which is the big part, a 2014 national championship, and an undefeated season in his first year at Ohio State. If not for the sanctions during the Tressel era, Ohio State would have played Alabama in the national championship, Urban Meyer's first year at Ohio State. So now the question is, can Ryan Day have close to the same level of success that Urban Meyer did? And I think he has a chance. I think it's all going to come down to this. Can Ryan Day and his staff continue to recruit at a top 5 level year in and year out? And right now they're doing that. The 2020 class is number 4 in the country currently. The 2021 class is also off to a great start. Let's be honest, in college football it comes down to talent, just like most sports. If you have more talent than the other team, 90% of the time you're going to win. So if Ryan Day and his staff can continue to recruit at an elite level every single year, there should not be that much of a drop-off from Urban Meyer to Ryan Day. Now, one thing I want to address is I hear a lot of Ohio State fans saying that Ryan Day is going to be better than Urban Meyer. And I think fans should be real careful saying stuff like that. We don't want to set ourselves up to be disappointed by Coach Day. Keep in mind, Urban never lost more than 1 game in Big Ten play. His worst season was 7-1 in the Big Ten, and anytime they lost a Big Ten game, they just ran through the rest of their schedule. So let's say, God forbid, the Buckeyes lose 2 Big Ten games this year. They go 10-2, they make a New Year's Six bowl. That's already Urban Meyer's worst season. So that's the standard that he has to live up to. So I just think people should be real careful when they make statements like he'll be better than one of the greatest to ever do it in college football history. Now, I really believe in Ryan Day. I think he's going to be a big-time coach. Everything he's shown me over the last year or so leads me to believe he's going to do great things at Ohio State. I think he's one of the best offensive minds in the game, not only in college, but in the NFL. I think he could be a coordinator for any NFL team right now today. I think he's that good. But let's just pump the brakes saying he's going to be better than Urban. He's got a long way to go before we even begin to compare him to one of the greatest to ever do it in college football history. Now, Ohio State enters the season, in my opinion, in a great spot. They're ranked number 5 in the coaches poll. The AP poll, which comes out August 19th, 6 days from now, I assume Ohio State's either going to be ranked 4th or 5th. I don't think they'll be any higher. I don't think they'll be any lower. It's going to be Clemson, the unanimous number 1 team in the country for obvious reasons. Alabama, number 2. Number 3, I believe, will be Georgia. They're a team that's bringing back the majority of last year's team. They were just a few plays away from winning the SEC title and going to the college football playoff. Now, I do believe people are overlooking how badly they got smacked by Texas in their bowl game. Now, Georgia made the excuse, hey, we didn't get up for the game because we were pissed we didn't make the college football playoff. Well, yeah, Ohio State was pissed they didn't make the college football playoff too, and they still handled their business in the Rose Bowl. So that's a typical SEC excuse. We've seen Alabama and Nick Saban do it time and time again. But Georgia's going to be good enough where number 3 sounds about right to me. Now, number 4, it's either going to be Oklahoma or Ohio State. I'd bet it's going to be Oklahoma. They're going from Kyler Murray to Jalen Hurts at the quarterback position. Jalen transferred from Alabama, and I feel like he's a really underrated player. He had a big-time career at Alabama. Barely ever lost. He's a winner. We saw how he saved his Tua's ass in the SEC title last year. So he's a big-time player. They're not going to be quite as dynamic without Kyler Murray, but they'll be a top 5 team in the country again this year. And then I believe at number 5, we will have Ohio State. And then the next 5 in the top 10, I believe, is going to be LSU. You got Texas, Michigan, Notre Dame, and I know I'm missing one other team. But that's going to be the top 10 right there. Florida, did I say them? That'll be the top 10. I believe Texas A&M will be the first team out, probably at number 11. But even though Ohio State's going to be ranked in the top 5, I still believe they're being overlooked by almost all the experts. I haven't heard anybody say Ohio State's going to not just win the Big Ten, but make the college football playoff. I haven't heard many people say it. We saw ESPN put out this post that they gave Michigan a 48.3% chance to win the Big Ten championship. They gave Penn State the second best odds, Michigan State the third best odds, and Ohio State the fourth best odds with an 8.2% chance to win the Big Ten title. Minnesota, with the fifth best odds, had an 8% chance. So ESPN gave Ohio State the same odds to win the Big Ten as they gave Minnesota, and they gave Michigan the same odds to win the Big Ten as they gave every other team in the Big Ten combined. So that's how high ESPN is on Michigan, and that's how low they are on Ohio State. No surprise, we know how much ESPN hates Ohio State, but here we go again with the hype of Michigan. The hype train rolls in at the same time every single year. And listen, Michigan's a good team. They went 10-3 last year. I think they're talented this year, but they've done nothing in the Harbaugh era. I mean, you're 1-9 against top 10 teams. 1-3 in bowl games. Got smacked again last year by Florida. 0-4 against Ohio State. So until Michigan wins a big game, they don't deserve the hype. Period. Like, plain and simple. And is Ohio State still the most talented team in the Big Ten? Yes or no? I believe they are. Now, I get it. New coach, Ryan Day, is now there. Urban's gone. New quarterback with Justin Fields. But still, to give Michigan a 48% chance and Ohio State just an 8% chance? I also saw the CBS predictions. They got Michigan making the college football playoff against Georgia. They also had Alabama and Clemson in. They have Ohio State playing Utah in a New Year's Six bowl. So, Ohio State's being doubted. I haven't seen any expert pick Ohio State to go to the college football playoff or win the Big Ten. So I believe this is going to be a hungry Ohio State team. They're going to have a chip on their shoulder. Ryan Day is going to be hungry to prove that he can do what Urban Meyer did. How about Justin Fields? How hungry is this kid going to be to prove everyone wrong? Everyone at Georgia that's smack talking him. A lot of fans around the country saying that he's going to be a bust. This is going to be a hungry Ohio State team. I feel like they're coming in with a chip on their shoulder, and they're coming in as, you can call them underdogs. Like I said, they'll be top 5, but being overlooked by almost everybody. So I feel that's a very good position for the Buckeyes to be in. Usually when they're, ranked number 1 or they're expected to win a national title, you have the inevitable, disappointment. Usually when Ohio State's the underdog, they usually do big things. So let's take a look at the depth chart real quick, and then we'll get to the schedule. So the biggest key for Ohio State's season, it's pretty obvious, it's the quarterback position. They don't have the depth that they've had in years past. Usually we have a JT Barrett, a Dwayne Haskins, a Tate Martell, usually about 3 starting caliber quarterbacks. This year we only have 1. We lose Tate Martell to the transfer portal. And by the way, Tate did not win the starting job at Miami. Jaron Williams did, so Tate Martell missed again. And then Matthew Baldwin also transfers. When Tate transferred, I was like, whatever, we got Justin Fields. But when Baldwin transferred, I was like, damn, that's a tough hit because I really liked Matthew Baldwin. I thought he had huge upside. I thought he could challenge Justin Fields for the starting job. But we don't have those 2 guys. We have Justin Fields, Gunnar Hoke, and Chris Chuganoff. Now, we know the hype that Justin Fields came into college with, the number 2 overall recruit in his recruiting class. He's the 8th all-time highest rated recruit since they started rating recruits. I don't even know when, maybe like 30 years ago. So Justin Fields is that big time. His talent is undeniable, but people question his accuracy, his intangibles, his leadership. Now, we didn't get to see a lot of him last year as a freshman, as he backed up Jake Fromm. He only attempted 39 passes, completing 27, which is 69%, pretty solid. 328 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and he also rushed 42 times for 266 yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. So I'm not going to judge a kid off 8 or 9 garbage time snaps a game. I'm just not going to do that. And the only other thing we have to judge him off is the spring game, where I believe he went 4 of 12 or 4 of 16. Everybody criticized him that he looked like crap in the spring game. I'm not going to judge him off that either. He'd been at Ohio State, maybe a few weeks. He's got new teammates, new coaches, new system, new program. You're a fool if you judge Justin Fields off a meaningless spring game. So I'm going to assume that he's close to the player that he was hyped up to be, and Ohio State's going to need him to be a big-time player if they want to reach their ultimate goals of winning the Big Ten championship and getting back to the college football playoff. Now, I think Justin Fields is going to be very good, and he hasn't been named the starter yet. Ryan Day is going to announce a starter on Monday between Gunnar Hoke and Justin Fields, but everybody knows it's going to be Justin Fields. Ryan Day made it pretty clear today. Justin's been doing great in practice. It's going to be Justin Fields on Monday. So I think Justin Fields is going to be great, but he needs to stay healthy too because we don't have that depth. Gunnar Hoke, a grad transfer from Kentucky, he was a backup at Kentucky for a couple years. I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about Gunnar Hoke. I just don't. But he was a backup at Kentucky for a few years, so I'm going to assume that his upside is limited, although I have heard, he's a high character guy. He's got a good arm. I think he's going to be solid, but he doesn't have close to the upside as a Justin Fields. So we not only need Justin Fields to, produce at an elite level, but you need him to stay healthy too. But all the people that are saying Justin Fields is going to be a bust, that is not going to happen. The kid's got way too much talent. I believe he's one of the 3 most talented quarterbacks in the country. You got Trevor Lawrence, Tua Tagovailoa, and Justin Fields. To me, those are the 3 most talented QBs in the country. Now, will he put up the numbers that those kids will? I don't know. I can't guarantee that because I haven't seen him yet. But as far as talent, he's as talented as anyone. Now, you can throw in a Shea Patterson and Adrian Martinez from Nebraska, a Herbert from Oregon. All those kids are great. But as far as talent, Justin Fields is as talented as anybody. And I believe he's got way too much around him to not be great. He's got a great coach in Ryan Day. Also a great offensive coordinator in Mike Urich coming from Oklahoma State. Did great things in the Big 12. He's got unlimited weapons around him at the wide receiver position, at running back. So Justin Fields has too much around him to not be good. The question is he going to be like a Heisman frontrunner? Is he going to be by far the best quarterback in the Big Ten? Or is he going to be like the 3rd best quarterback in the Big Ten behind Martinez and Shea Patterson? Because that's a whole different story there. So my thing is, how good is he going to be? I know he's going to be good. Can he be great is going to be the question. Now at running back, we know who's going to be the guy. It's going to be J.K. Dobbins, right? He's going to be the workhorse this year. 2 years in a row, freshman and sophomore year, he went over 1,000 yards. Now the thing is, as a freshman, he averaged 6.5 yards per carry. Last year, just 4.5 yards per carry. So we saw that big drop-off in production from J.K. Dobbins last year. Not sure exactly why his production dropped off, but J.K. Dobbins said last year was a failure and that you're going to see a whole different player in 2019. He's lost weight, he's in great shape, and he's coming out to prove a point this year. And he's going to be the workhorse because Master Teague's not even practicing right now. He's hurt. And then the other 2 guys are young, Marcus Crowley and Steele Chambers. It's going to be J.K. Dobbins as the workhorse, and I believe Demario McCall, a guy who's never really got his chance. He's a big play waiting to happen. He averages over 12 yards per reception and 6 yards per carry. So Demario McCall is a very explosive player. I believe it's going to be J.K. Dobbins as the workhorse and Demario McCall in to catch balls and stuff like that. But I like what we have at the running back position. I think it's going to be a very competitive room. I think Master Teague will inevitably become the number 2 guy behind J.K. Dobbins, but he's got to get back, get healthy, and start practicing again before he can do that. Now at wide receiver, we lose Paris Campbell, we lose Terry McLaurin, 2 of my favorite all-time Buckeyes. But we got a great group coming back. Austin Mack, guy who only played 8 games last year, just 26 receptions. He's also banged up right now, not practicing, but when Mack does get back, he will be one of the starters, no doubt. I expect a bigger season from Austin Mack this year. KJ Hill returning for his 5th season at Ohio State, coming off a monster year, 70 receptions, 885 yards, 6 touchdowns. KJ Hill's big time. He's experienced. He's probably the oldest player on the team. He's going to have a monster season. Then we got Chris Olave. We saw the breakout he had at about the midpoint last year. He's going to have a big season. Ben Victor coming back. Very talented guy. He made a lot of improvements last year. Then we got Garrett Wilson. Might be the most talented receiver out of this whole group, but he's a freshman. Everything I've heard, Garrett Wilson's really standing out in practice. So he's going to get snaps this year. He's going to play a lot more than people expect. And then we got Jalen Gill and CJ Saunders rounding out this wide receiver group. But this wide receiver group is going to be big time. We don't quite have a guy with the speed of Paris Campbell, so that, I'm going to miss. But this is going to be a great group. Now the question is, do we have a quarterback or quarterbacks that can consistently get them the ball out open in space and let them do what they do? But if you think this wide receiver group is good, wait till next year when Julian Fleming gets here, Mookie Cooper, G. Scott, and all those boys. Probably going to be the best wide receiver group to ever come through Ohio State. Now, one of the concerns entering the season is the offensive line. You lose Pridgeon, you lose Knox, and you lose, there was one other one I forgot. Now, this is going to be a group that's going to be new playing together, but it's a very talented offensive line. It's expected to be Thayer Mumford, Wyatt Davis, who's a 5-star, Josh Myers, Jonah Jackson, the transfer from Rutgers, and either Nicholas Petit-Free, who's a young 5-star, and Brandon Bowen. I think Brandon Bowen will probably win the job, but this offensive line is too good to not produce this year. I just think it might take a few games for the offensive line to round into prime form. So that's the offensive depth chart. And, it's going to be tough to match the production from last year's offense, 535 yards per game and 42.4 points per game. This was the second best offense in the country last year to just Oklahoma. So I don't know if they can be quite that good, but I think they can be close to it. The one thing we got to get better at, only 170 yards on the ground per game last year. That's not an Ohio State team. Ohio State's got to be over 200 yards a game on the ground, and I definitely think they're going to do it this year with Justin Fields being more of a dual threat guy, and J.K. Dobbins, I'm expecting a much bigger season. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, I'm expecting a huge season out of this Ohio State defense. Everything I'm hearing from camp, this is going to be a different Ohio State defense in 2019. This could be one of the best defenses in the country, and they're going to need to be because it was poor last year. They gave up 404 yards per game, and they gave up 25.5 points per game. That's got to come way down. The yards has got to be at about 300. You got to chop 100 yards off that. And the points, you got to chop at least 5.5 points off that. At least hold opponents to 20 points per game. And I think this defense is going to be nasty this year, and it starts with the defensive line. 9 guys deep of just monsters, 5 and 4 stars, with Larry Johnson coaching them up. I mean, you got Chase Young, Davon Hamilton, Robert Landers, Jonathan Cooper, Tommy Togiai, who Larry Johnson said is having a monster camp, Jason Cornell, Tyler Friday, Teron Vincent, and Zach Harrison, the 2 young 5 stars. This could be the best defensive line in the country, and I think this will be the strength of the Ohio State team this year. Now, another concern entering the season is the linebackers. Last year, the linebackers were terrible. I think that's the reason why the defense was so bad last year. It's expected to be the same starters as last year. Malik Harrison, who was our best linebacker last year, Tuff Borland, who struggled coming off injuries, and Pete Werner. Those are expected to be the 3 starters. Now, I don't think they should have a long leash because none of them were good last year besides Malik Harrison. I thought he was pretty good. And then we got Baron Browning. He was inconsistent last year, but good at times. This whole linebacking core has got to be better. I mean, they're the quarterbacks of the defense. It doesn't matter how good your D-line, your secondary is, anything, if your linebackers suck. But again, I'm hearing from camp, and I know a lot of it's just talk, but that the linebackers look much better, and they're going to have to be way better if this Ohio State defense wants to be as good as I think they can potentially be. Now in the secondary, I feel really good about this secondary. Okudah and Shaun Wade at cornerback, and Jordan Fuller and Brennan White at the safety positions. Now Damon Arnett will battle Shaun Wade for that other cornerback spot. Listen, I like Damon Arnett. He's very talented. But Shaun Wade's got to be on the field, period. Shaun Wade's that freaking good. He's got to be on the field for the majority of the snaps. I don't know how they're going to split that up between Arnett and Shaun Wade, but this secondary should lock it down this year. They said in an interview I saw yesterday that last year, the safeties and the corners were not in the same meeting room under Greg Schiano. This year, they are under Jeff Hafley and Greg Madison. They said they've bonded, that they're closer together as a group. They're on the same page this year. They know what each other is doing, and that last year it was way too confusing under Greg Schiano. So I expect to see a way better Ohio State secondary this year as long as they actually turn around and look for the ball. Got to make sure you do that. But this is a talented secondary, man. Okudah, Shaun Wade, Fuller, and Brennan White. This Ohio State defense going to be big time this year, no doubt about it. So if the offense isn't quite as good as last year, I believe the Ohio State defense will make this year's team slightly better than last year's. Because let's be honest, defense travels. If you have a tough, just nasty, consistent defense, they're gonna play like that every game. Whether it's on the road, it's a night game, doesn't matter. The defense will show up. Offensively, sometimes an offense can be wishy-washy. They may show up one game, not show up the other game. If they got a tough road game at night in a tough environment, sometimes the offense might not show up. And that's why it's going to be key for this Ohio State defense to carry a much bigger load than they did last year. All right, so that's the depth chart. Let's take a look at the schedule. I'll give you guys my predictions, and then I'll get out of here. By the way, guys, when the season does start, I'm going to be doing reactions after every single Ohio State game. So if you're into that type of thing, definitely make sure you hit that subscribe button. So week 1 at home against Florida Atlantic, 5-7 last year in Lane Kiffin's first season. They started off good, kind of nosedived later in the season. I think they'll be improved in year 2, but not enough talent to play with the Buckeyes for 4 quarters. Ohio State wins that game. Week 2 at home against Cincinnati. They went 11-2 last year. They ended the season the number 24 team in the country. Luke Fickell really did a hell of a job with this Bearcat team last year. They're going to be rolling into Columbus as a top 25 team. I think they give the Buckeyes a good fight for the first half. Buckeyes pull away in the second half, beat Cincinnati by 14. Week 3 at Indiana, 5-7 last year. Ohio State should win that game. Week 4 at home against Miami of Ohio, 6-6 last year. Another relatively easy game. Ohio State should win that one. Week 5 at Nebraska. Now, this is a team that a lot of experts are hyping up to be a legit Big Ten title contender. They went just 4-8 in Scott Frost's first season. I don't see them being that great, but I think they'll flip their record from 4-8 to 8-4. They do have a big-time dual threat quarterback in Adrian Martinez, who is going to be tough to deal with. I think this is going to be a good fight throughout, but I say the Buckeyes win by 3 points on the road week 5. Week 6 at home against Michigan State, a program that's starting to fall off a little bit. They went just 3-7 2 years ago. They went 7-6 last year. They're always going to have a good defense, not enough playmakers on offense. I don't like what they have at the quarterback position with Brian Lewerke and Rocky Lombardi. I say Ohio State wins that game pretty convincingly week 6 at home against Michigan State. Now, following the first bye, we play week 7 on the road against Northwestern, 9-5 last year. They got as hot as anybody late in the season last year. They got one of the best coaches, certainly in the Big Ten, maybe in the country, in Pat Fitzgerald. Now, they don't recruit well, just 12th in the Big Ten last year, but they get all 3-star players. They stay for 4 years. They play as a team. They got a good scheme. They got a great coach. That's going to be a tough game on the road, probably going to be a night game, so it's going to be a tough environment. I say Ohio State wins by 10 points at Northwestern week 7. Week 8, at home against Wisconsin, 8-5 last year. I see them having about another 8-5, maybe 7-6 season. They lose longtime quarterback Hornibrook. They do return star running back Jonathan Taylor. They have one of the best offensive lines, probably in the country, but definitely in the Big Ten. But I think Ohio State will have too much speed, too many playmakers. They beat Wisconsin by a couple touchdowns at home week 8. Following the second bye, week 9, at home against Maryland, 5-7 last year. I'd love to say this is going to be an easy game, but we all remember what Maryland did to Ohio State last year. If it was not for a botched 2-point conversion, Maryland would have beat Ohio State. If Maryland's quarterback could have thrown an easy 3-yard pass to a wide open guy, Ohio State loses the game last year to Maryland. And we remember what their big-time running back, Anthony McFarland, did to the Buckeyes. He gashed them all day. He looked like the greatest running back of all time. He's returning as a sophomore this year. He's viewed as a top 5 running back in the country, so he's going to be going to the NFL. Ohio State better have a game plan for this kid, or it could be a close call again this year. I say Ohio State makes up for last year's close game, beats them by about 17 points, but I'll say Anthony McFarland has another big game with about 150 yards. Week 10, on the road at Rutgers, 1-11 last year. Ohio State usually beats them by about 50. I don't see anything changing this year. Week 11, at home against Penn State, 9-4 last year. They lose longtime quarterback Trace McSorley, who's been the leader of that team for years. I think he's going to be a huge loss. They also lose star running back Miles Sanders, so it's going to be a new-look Penn State team, but I'm not going to overlook them because they have given the Buckeyes a lot of trouble the last couple years, gotten up big on Ohio State 2 years in a row. Ohio State has come back to win both those games. Now, Ohio State's going to be at home. It's not going to be on the road in a whiteout where Ohio State struggles. I say the Buckeyes beat Penn State by 10 points at home week 11. Now, week 12, biggest game of the year, on the road against Michigan, 10-3 last year. I think Michigan's going to have a very dangerous offense this year. Josh Gaddis is their new offensive coordinator. They're getting rid of the 1960s playbook that Harbaugh likes to run. I think this is going to be a dangerous offense. Shea Patterson's a pretty damn good quarterback. I don't think he's elite, but I think he's pretty good, and he's going to be running the type of offense that he ran at his other college and that he ran in high school. So it's going to be more his offense this year, and they got some big-time wide receivers that are all about 6'3", and they've been there for a few years in Peoples-Jones, Nico Collins, and Ronnie Bell. They're also about 3 guys deep at running back. So this offense is going to be tough to stop, but I'm relying on the Ohio State defense being much improved from last year. On the defensive side of the ball for Michigan, though, they lose their 3 best players, Chase Winovich, Rashad Gary, and Devin Bush. So a defense that Ohio State put 62 on last year lost their 3 best players. I don't think Michigan's defense is going to be as good this year. Now you hear Don Brown hyping it up, saying they're faster than ever this year. He says that type of stuff every year, so I think they're going to be good, but I don't think Michigan's offense is going to be able to keep up with Ohio State's offense, which I believe will score at will on Michigan. Now, it is going to be on the road. It'll be a tough game, but I say Ohio State beats Michigan by 10 points on the road week 12. So that's my prediction. I got the Buckeyes going 12-0 in Ryan Day's first season as head coach of Ohio State. I got the Buckeyes going back to the Big Ten championship and hopefully making it back to the college football playoff for the first time in 3 years. So you guys let me know what you guys think in the comments section. What is your prediction for the 2019 Ohio State Buckeyes? What do you expect from Ryan Day in year one as Ohio State's head coach? Again, what do you expect from Justin Fields? Can he be a Heisman contender? How good will Justin Fields be for the Buckeyes in 2019? Let me know all that stuff in the comment section. Like always, I thank anyone who watched this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I will check y'all later. Go Buckeyes, and see y'all next time.